All right, so in this one, we're going to do some refactoring of our code, or really just adding some stuff into our model for order. Now, what we're going to be adding is we're going to be adding the user model. So we can actually associate a user to any specific order. Now, we haven't implemented user registration or anything like that yet, but at least we can start to get that direction. We will add user registration later because it's a pretty in-depth conversation, but I wanted to get you guys up to speed on doing a lot of this stuff. All right, so what we'll do here is inside of this, we will import from django.contrib.auth, import get user model. Now, this is the suggested way of, without the parentheses, this is the suggested way of grabbing the user object now going forward, because you can have the built-in Django user model, or you can have your own custom user model. So in this case, this is what we'll use going forward. You may have seen in other videos us do it in a different way. If you have, ignore that going forward, just use this. This is better practice. Then all we do is set the user equals to get user model with the in parentheses. This is the better practice than what we've done before, so just use this. All right, so now what we'll do is in the order itself, we're going to add a foreign key relation to the user object. So we will do user equals to models.foreign key user, and we are going to allow it to be blank. So blank equals to true and null equals to true. We might not actually want that on production side, but the way we're going to set it is it's going to be pretty much impossible to have it blank other than the ones that we currently have in the database. So we'll just leave that as is. All right, so now that we have that user, I'm going to take out this comment. Eventually we'll add this stuff too. Actually, we might as well add it now. I'm going to calculate tax later, but we'll have the dollar figure for tax there. So all of these I'm going to do decimal fields, just like what we did with price on our cart model itself. All right, so we have this line total. I'm actually going to copy this line total for cart item and bring it over into our models for order. I'm going to paste it 3 times, and one's going to be subtotal, one's going to be tax total, so the price in tax, right? So the default is going to be 0. That's what I'll use as the default. And then final total, or final price, will be that, and default also being 1099. Okay, so let's remove that. Address, it's a bigger topic. Once we actually loop in a user and stuff like that, we will come back and actually add the address in. Cool, so now we have the order updated a little bit better, so we can have a user and then we have all the pricing that we want. All right, cool. So actually, I'm going to just move this stuff up here, just so we have them in an order that's, I think, a little bit easier to read, and possibly put the status below cart. Okay. Now all we have to run is the migration to make sure that our database actually knows about this stuff. Otherwise, we'll run into some errors. So let's actually look at those errors. And if we go into the admin, click on order, we'll see no such column, right? Well, that should make sense, right? We don't have a column for user, and therefore it's saying no such column. So if I uncomment or comment it out and do a refresh, might have to restart the server. Now it's going to say subtotal, right? It's just going to go down the list of things that we just don't have yet. So what we have to do is make sure that it's in the database. So we do Python manage.py schema migration, and it's going to be orders, and then we just do auto. All right, so what it says, it's adding the fields on the model for us. To finish it off, we do Python manage.py migrate orders. All right, let's run the server again. Cool. And now back into our orders, we can click on an order and we see we have these pricing, and then we also have our user model. So I can actually associate a user to any given order now. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna actually associate a few to my user. I'll just do 2 of them. Actually, let's do 3. All right, so now that we have some actual orders, let's make a view to see these orders, just to see a list of them. We're not going to get too crazy about it quite yet, but we will create a view for it. So go ahead and open your orders view, and we can put it above checkout if we want, above or below, it doesn't really matter. So define, we'll say orders, and we'll do request. And just like usual, we return render, request, template, context. All right, so template will be, we'll do orders all.html, or maybe just orders user. So they're not actually all orders, they're specifically for the user. And then context, we will set the user. We actually don't need to set any context. We'll see what the orders will be doing in just a second. All right, so now we just need to make this template, and we need to make a new folder for orders. So new folder, orders. Within that folder, we make a new file called user, save it, just new file, and then user, save it, user.html, and orders. All right, so extends base.html, block content, and block. And we'll just do user dot. So since we have this foreign key relation, we can do user dot order set dot all. So it's going to get all of the orders that are related to the user because of this foreign key. So it's going user order. So it's taking the model and lowercasing it, and then doing set dot all. So that's going to get everything. All right. So if we save that and then we make a view, I'm just going to copy checkout, put it right underneath it, and call it orders. Orders, orders, and orders. Maybe call the name of it user orders. All right. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and actually go into orders. And there we go. We got a list of our orders. So they're actually showing up, right? So now that we have that, we can see that it's working. Let's go ahead and add some orders in there when we actually add the order itself. So we actually need to assign the user to the order, right? So we could do it when it's created, or we could do it after it's created. So I'm actually going to do it after it's created, to new order.user equals to request.user, right? So the request user. Now this is going to eventually assume require user login, right? So just make a little note of what we still need to do. We need to require a user login, so this will not fail, right? So if they're not logged in, they shouldn't be able to check out, right? They should have to log in or create a guest account of some kind, but we're going to make them actually create a real account, not a guest account. There's no real reason for them to do that. All right, so then new order.save. All right, so we added something to the order, so now we have to save it. Okay, so now we can actually add a new product. Now we have this cart, we go to checkout. Okay, so nothing happened, so let's actually go into our admin. Or actually, we should be able to see the order already. So let's go to orders, and we don't see it. So let's go back into the checkout. Let's see what's going on here. Back into orders. Nope, it's not coming through. So we go into admin, and let's check out that order. Did set it. So let's actually delete all the orders. It's probably because I actually did set that order in the admin before. So let's actually create a new order just so we can see it. Check out. Okay, now I go to orders. There we go. It's there. All right. So, and if of course, if I go into admin and change that order, that brand new order, to finished, and go back to checkout. Cart's empty. Please keep shopping. There we go. Got a new order started. Let's look at orders. like it's not coming through. Did not actually create a new order there. Right there, it should have created a new order, but it didn't. So let's see why. Okay, so I had this cart delete on here. I don't want that any longer. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to just delete everything that I've already saved from when we did it manually. So delete all the carts. Okay, and then also delete all of the orders if you have any. Once you delete the carts, it should delete the orders as well because they rely on each other. So now let's go back into our home page and notice that there's this cart item. If I click on it, I said cart matching query does not exist. Well, that's because in our session we didn't delete the actual session. So for our view of our cart, what we should see is this should be working, but it's not. And that's because right here, I put that cart ID here. I didn't put it up with the try clause, so I'm actually going to move that up. All right, so if it does not exist, then it's just going to redirect me, and it still has a little things that we'll still have to clean up, but now it's actually not showing that cart or that error. So I'm going to go into the admin, and I'm just going to log out of my session to make sure that all of my session data goes away. So once you log out, the session stuff is deleted. So as you see, the cart is gone. All right, so now that we have that, we look in our views, and what we should see now is we should be able to add an order, and then it should save that order, and then we could go to actual orders. So go to product, add it to the cart, go to checkout, and now we should be able to see orders. And we do, so that's a brand new order. Now let's go into admin, and in orders, that one order, let's change it to finished. Make sure you save it. Let's go to checkout. Cart's empty. Please keep shopping. That's a good sign. Product. New product. Checkout. Go into orders. Now we see 2 orders. Perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. The errors that we ran into had to do, well, first of all, this, we don't need that there. And second of all, it had to do with the fact that we had all this old data and old sessions and stuff like that. So if you ever run into some errors like that, just keep in mind that you're working in a session. So if you log in and log out, that will delete that session, or log out and log in, either way. That will delete that session, and then you'll basically be starting anew. The cart and stuff would still be there. Same with the order. The order would actually still be in the background, but it's not going to work because it's going to be going off of the cart session, the order specifically. That is, of course, assuming that it is finished. Right, so that's how we'll see. All right, so now we have our orders working, we have products, we have our cart, we have a lot of things actually starting to really come together, and the orders itself, we could make this look a little bit better. There is one more thing that I did want to do is I wanted to add a actual time or a random number or integer to the actual order ID instead of time. So what I'll do is I'm going to add a new file here inside of orders, call it utils. Oops, save it as utils.py. So all we're going to do here is actually create a way to save our order, or make a random ID generator, basically, is essentially what we'll be doing here. And it's going to go off of something that doesn't already exist. So we'll go import string and import random. Now these things are just what I'm going to be using. You don't have to use this. You can use a variety of other things, or you could just use the default Django ID for the order. You don't have to use a random ID generator, but I think it's a good idea just so we can make sure that we have, just different choices and stuff like that. All right, so what I'll do here is I'll define the ID generator, and I'm going to give a size of 6, and then characters equaling to string.ascii uppercase. So these are the arguments that I'm just going to be adding in, plus string.digits. And then I'm going to return join the random.choice chars for x in range, and this is going to be of the size. So 6 as default. All right, so this is going to create an ID for us. All right, so let's actually see what this does. Python manage.py shell, and I'm going to import all this. So I'm going to copy this and paste it in here, and I'll just do ID generator. And there we go. So it's creating an ID for us. So every time I do it, it creates a brand new ID for us. And this is a 6-digit one. If you changed it to being size equals to 10, it would change the size accordingly, right? So 10 might be even a better ID itself as a default, but I think 6 is perfectly fine too. Because, I mean, the chances are pretty good that you're not going to hit into a number that's going to actually conflict with other numbers. And if it does, if you get to a point where all those numbers are used up, then you can just add another digit or a few. Or you could just start off with 10, whatever you want to do. All right, so now that we have this, I'm actually going to import that function into the checkout process. So from .utils import ID generator. Right, so this right here. Make sure it's the same name. Good. Okay, so now what we want to do with the ID generator is, well, there's a few things. Actually, I don't know if I want to return a digit that's already been used. So maybe in this generator, I want to actually check to see if it's used. So from .models import order. So I'm going to get a string. I'll just say the ID equals 2. And then what I'll do is try order.objects.get order ID equals to the ID. So if it exists, I'm going to have to do ID generator again. So I just run it again, itself. So it's going to keep running until it finds something, except order does not exist, return the ID. Right, so if it exists, then it's going to run the ID generator again. It's going to make the ID here. So this actually makes the ID out right here. And what it's doing, this function is just joining together all of these and then the random characters that are in here. So it's going through a range of numbers, so 6 digits, so up to 6, and then each loop it's getting a different character in the ASC2 set of characters. And then it joins them all together with this call. This is just a quick way to write that out. All right, so then all this is doing is it's going to try, see if the object exists. If it does, then run the generator again. If it doesn't, then return the ID. All right, so now that we have that all set up, we can actually run it into our orders. And all I have to do here now is, instead of our random string time, I will just add this and comment out our string time. And now we have our ID generator. It's a function, so we got to make sure it runs as such. And so now let's actually try it out. Exit out of Python. Python manage.py, run server. Do a refresh. Products, add a cart, checkout. That might not be a new checkout, so let's actually go in here. No, I don't think it does not look like that's a new one, so let's go to finished. Checkout. All right. Product, add product, cart, checkout. Cool. And let's go to orders. And the order ID is as we should expect, right? So we see that this is working here. And yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. So another thing that we could try to make sure that our actual function is working correctly. So in our utils, So I'm just going to comment this out and change the ID to the ID that I just used, or that I just got, right? So this is the one that I just got right here. And I'll actually set that down here in the try loop. And then I'll print the same. And I'm not going to run the generator again because we don't want that to happen. It's going to be a loop then because we set it here. All right, so let's try that one more time. And we'll go to admin. This time I'll just log out, log back in. Add a product, cart, checkout. Order ID may not be null. So that's because we didn't return anything, but it says the same. Right, so that's all it would do, is it would print the same and then it'll say it does not exist. It didn't actually return anything because we didn't have it return anything. We were just testing to make sure that this would actually work. And it did. Cool. So, let's uncomment all that stuff. There we go. And we refresh. Looks like it might have even created it again. And it just went to the default of ABC. So we know if we ever see ABC, then something's wrong with the order numbers. And then at that point, you might want to go and default and change whatever. All right, so that's it. That's a lot of orders stuff. We will have to come back to orders and clean this page up a little bit. But now we're going to actually have to start to get into creating a user, user objects, user registration, and then as well as integrate that user with a payment processor, which we are going to be using is Stripe. So if you don't have a Stripe account, go to stripe.com and sign up for one. This is the easiest way, the best way to develop with using credit cards, and also make it so it doesn't say pay with Stripe anywhere. It will just say pay or whatever. All right, so we will see you soon.